jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mayapur Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from 10th Canto, chapter 45, entitled Krishna Rescues His Teacher's Son, Sloka 26, 27, and 28. Atha śūra-suto rājan, putrayoḥ samakārayat, purodhasā brāhmaṇaiś yathā-vat dvija-saṁskṛtim. Atha, then, śūra-suto, the son of Śūrasena, Vasudeva, Rājan, O King Parīkṣit, putrayoḥ, of his two sons, samakārayat, had performed, purodhasā, by a priest, brāhmaṇaiḥ, by brāhmaṇas, cha, and yathā-vat, properly, dvija-saṁskṛtim, Brahminical initiation. Translation. My dear king, then Vasudeva, the son of Śūrasena, arranged for a priest and other brāhmanas to perform his two sons' second birth initiation. Now we'll go on to text 27. Tebhyo dakṣiṇā gāvo, rukma-mālāḥ sv-alaṅkṛtāḥ, sv-alaṅkṛtebhyaḥ sampūjya, sa-vatsāḥ kṣauma-mālinīḥ. So we'll go to translation. Okay. Translation. Vasudeva honored these brahmanas by worshipping them and giving them fine ornaments and well-ornamented cows with their calves. All these cows wore gold necklaces and linen wreaths. Text 28. Ya Krishna Ramajanmakshe Manodatha Mahamati Taschadhadhat Anusmritya kṣauma dharmato hritaha. Can chant. Chant. Mataji's? Yaha, which cows? Krishna Rama, of Krishna and Balaram. Janmarikshe, on the day of birth. Manaha, in his mind. Dataha, given in charity. Mahamati, the magnanimous Vasudeva. Taha, them. Cha, and. Adatat, he gave. Anusmritya, remembering. Kṣauma, by Kamsa. Adharmataha, impiously. Ritaha, taken away. Translation. The magnanimous Vasudeva then remembered the cows he had mentally given away on the occasion of Krishna's and Balaram's birth. Kamsa had stolen those cows, and Vasudeva now recovered them and gave them away in charity also. We can repeat. The magnanimous Vasudeva then remembered the cows he had mentally given away on the occasion of Krishna's and Balaram's birth. Kamsa had stolen those cows, and Vasudeva now recovered them and gave them away in charity also. Purport. At the time of Krishna's appearance, Vasudeva had been imprisoned by Kamsa, who had stolen all his cows. Still, Vasudeva had been so jubilant at the birth of the Lord that he had mentally donated 10,000 of his cows to the brāhmaṇas. Now, upon Kamsa's death, Vasudeva took back all his cows from the late king's herd and gave 10,000 of them, according to religious principles, to the worthy brāhmaṇas. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakṣūra-militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantekam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Arigor Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these three slokas, they form a turning point in Krishna's pastimes. There's some important words here. In 26, Vasudeva is called the son of Śūrasena. So Śūrasena was also present at this ceremony of the Upanayana of Krishna and Balaram. In fact, by that time, most of the Yadu dynasty, which had gone in many different directions during Kamsa's rule, had come back, and Vasudeva decided that it was the proper time to perform this ceremony. So in text 26 also is the word purodhasā. So purodhasā refers to Gargamuni. Now we can remember that Gargamuni, he being the purohit of the Yadu dynasty, when Krishna was born and Vasudeva had to take him to the home of Nanda Maharaj, actually he had to abandon him there. The word used, Krishna says to Nanda Maharaj that utsrishta, that actually we were abandoned by our parents for some reason. And it was you who raised us and took care of us. Therefore, you're our real tata, janani, pita. You're our real mother and father, Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. So at that time, when Krishna first appeared to Vasudeva and Devaki, he was a very small baby with 4 arms. And he had a small conch and a small chakra, a small lotus, and small club in his hands. And Vasudeva was so enchanted by this small child that appeared from Devaki. He began to offer prayers. And then they prepared to take Krishna to the home of Nanda Maharaj. Now, because Vasudeva and Devaki had been imprisoned, and Kamsa had stolen all of the cows, all of the possessions of Vasudeva when he imprisoned them. He had taken the cows and put them in his Goshala. So he wasn't able to offer anything to the Brahmins at the birth of his son. But mentally, he's called here later, he's called Mahamati, because due to his magnanimousness, even though physically he couldn't offer anything to the Brahmins when his child was born, mentally he offered the 10,000 cows to the Brahmins. And also at the time of Balaram, when he was born, although Vasudeva only heard about it from a distance, that Rohini had given birth to a son, that time also, because he couldn't display anything, he couldn't let Kamsa know that that was actually his son, and it was actually the 7th son. So at that time also, he gave in his mind 10,000 cows in charity. So now Kamsa had been conquered by Krishna, and when a king is conquered, all of his possessions now go to the new king. So Vasudeva went to the Goshala of Kamsa and took back his cows. And at that time, he gave to the brāhmaṇas who accompanied Gargamuni. Now in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto, Vasudeva very secretly called Gargamuni. It was the 100th day of Krishna's appearance. Normally, when there are sanskars performed, for the Vaishnavas, there are 10 principal sanskars in one's life. But in general, there's 16 sanskars. It's expanded a little bit. And 3 of the sanskars are performed before the child is even born. First and most important being Garbhadan sanskara. Then in the 3rd month for the protection of the child. Then just before the birth, the protection of the mother and the child. Then after the birth, just as in the case of Krishna, the jata sanskaram is performed. And that's the birth ceremony, the cutting of the cord. And Nanda Maharaj was able to perform that very pompously and jubilantly with all the Brijbasis. That was performed from his birth. It was performed in Braja. Then after that, there's a minor one, taking the child out for the first time to see the moon, to see the sun. And normally, on the 10th day, the Namakaran sanskara is performed. But Nanda Maharaj didn't perform the Namakaran for either Balaram or Krishna. So on the 100th day, Vasudeva, who was just like a turtle meditating on the eggs that had been put in the pasture grounds of Braja, just meditating on his sons all this time, he secretly called Gargamuni and said, You are our purohit, you are our priest, I am the yajaman for the yadus. I want you to secretly go to the home of Nanda Maharaj and perform the namakaran of my two sons. So Garga Muni could understand everything, being an astrologer. He knew who these two boys were. He said, yes, I will go there today, and he went there secretly. As Nanda Maharaj was going out, as he had done from his childhood, he was going to a secluded place to worship his Lakshmi Narayan Shalagram Maharaj. And all the cows, the cowherd men, millions of calves were jumping around. He saw from a distance Garga Muni was coming. He welcomed him, he praised him, he gave him a seat, and then he told his servant, run, go, do it. So the servant ran and brought the two boys with the mothers. Garga Muni, being a pure devotee of the Lord, knowing very well Krishna Balaram's identity, he just melted in love and tears when he saw Krishna Balaram being held by their mothers as they came and sat down near him. He offered his respects to them. He wanted to fall down at their feet. Tears were flowing from his eyes. And then Nanda Maharaj asked him to please perform the namakaran for the two boys. And Garga Muni refused. He said, this will cause a great calamity if I perform it, because the demigods will see, and Durga Devi will tell Kamsa, Kamsa will come, he'll know that the purohit of the yadus has come to perform the namakaran of the Vaishya boys. He'll immediately understand who these boys are. I can't do it. So Nanda Maharaj, he was very upset. He said, because of your auspiciousness, everything will be auspicious. So Garga Muni, he had come for that reason, and now he said, all right, I'll do it. So he gave the names Balaram, Ram, then Balaram, then Shankarshan for uniting the families. For Krishna, he gave two names. He said previously he was the son of Vasudeva, so some people will call him Vasudeva. And because he appeared in many different colors previously, white, red, now he's in blackish color, so his name will also be Krishna. So some people will call him Krishna, some people will call him Vasudeva. In Braj, they called him Krishna. Nanda Maharaj told Mother Yasoda, from now on, from this day, they were 3 months old, you call him Krishna. She would call him, he would come running. So now, Krishna and Balaram, after the invitation of Kamsa, they've come to Mathura. They've met their mother and father, Devaki and Vasudeva. But for Krishna and Balaram, their mothers and father were in Braja. That was Rohini, Yashoda, and Nanda Maharaj. That was all they knew throughout their whole childhood. And now they were expected to accept Vasudeva and Devaki as their parents. But they didn't know how to relate to Mother Devaki. So Vasudeva, seeing this, he realized, we're going to have to perform some purificatory ceremony. Sanskar means to purify, to cleanse. Just like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the word sanskar, they use that for cleaning a coconut. When it's all rough, you have to take off the skin, then you have to take off the brown part. It's a cleansing process. So the different sanskars, the Vaishnava sanskars that are performed, that's for the cleansing of the child and then finally the adult. So he called again Garga Muni. Now at the time of the namakaran sanskar, Garga Muni predicted what would happen. He told Nanda Maharaj that you will perform, I am performing the namakaran. I will not be able to perform the sanskar for when the ears are pierced, or the sanskar for when some hair is cut, the mandan, the chudakaranam sanskar. Karnaveda and chudakaranam. I cannot perform them. So when you perform the anaprashan sanskar, that's the giving of the first grains, you should also perform these two sanskars. And you will not be able to perform the upanayana. I will certainly perform that, and you will not be able to perform the vivaha sanskar. I will perform that. But I can tell you, I will not tell you when those sanskars will be performed. So Gargamuni understood already that the childhood sanskars, those 6 sanskars, would be performed in Braj by Nanda Maharaj as the father. Now Krishna has come to Mathura, and he is going to perform the Upanayana Sanskara. Upanayana Sanskara, it's a very big occasion. You invite all your friends and family and relatives. They come from everywhere. But they didn't invite the Brijbasis. They didn't invite Nanda, Yashoda, no. And Krishna said, don't invite them. Why is that? How can you not invite the people who brought you up, your friends, your relatives? Krishna could understand, because there are 3 varnas that accept the Upanayanam Sanskara. The Brahmanas, the Vaishyas, and the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. So when they were to take this second birth from Vasudeva, it would have broken the hearts of the Brijbasis to see that he was now going to become a Kshatriya. So quickly, Krishna sent a message to Nanda Maharaj. He said, either today or tomorrow, Vasudeva, Gargamuni, they're going to initiate me and make me into a Kshatriya, a part of their family. But I will never be a part of their family. You are my mother and father. I am your sons. We are your sons. And we will always think of you as such. Therefore, I want you to perform my Upanayana Sanskar there in Braj at the same time. You take all of the cowherd boys that are my age, all of my friends, and you have a Upanayana Sanskar at that time for them. And I will appear with them, and I will also become Dvija at that time as a Vaishya. So same time, the 2 sanskars were going on. One for Krishna Balaram to become Kshatriyas in the family of Devaki and Vasudeva, and one for them to become Vaishyas in the family of Nanda Maharaj. Now, after a sanskara, after this purificatory process, the sanskara makes an impression in the mind of whoever is undergoing it. So then Krishna and Balaram, they developed a desire to study. They wanted to become purified. They wanted to do what everyone else does after they get the Upanayana Sanskara. So there's a sloka in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives 3 different types of austerity. He gives austerity of the body, austerity of the speech, and austerity of the mind. So the 14th sloka, it starts out with Deva, Dvija, Guru, Pragya. Pujanam, Socham, Arjavam. Brahmacharyam, Ahimsa cha. Shariram, Tapa Uchate. So the first line, Deva, that means austerity of the body, the sharir, is to worship the Supreme Lord, or the Devatas, Prabhupada says. Then next comes Dvija, to worship the Brahmins. Next comes Guru, to worship the Guru. And next comes Pragyas. Those are the worshipful personalities such as one's mother and father. So Krishna and Balaram, they wanted to perform those austerities, worshiping the Supreme Lord, the Brahmins, a Guru, and their parents. So who was going to be their Guru? Gargamuni, he knew perfectly well who Krishna and Balaram were. How was he going to be their Guru and train them? Because they had to submissively serve him. Vedavyas, all of the great Vaishnava Gurus, they all knew that Krishna and Balaram had appeared, the Supreme Personalities of Godhead. So Krishna decided that we have to find a guru who doesn't know who we really are, has not a clue who we are. So there's a connection, because Narada Muni had gone to Purnamasi, the mother of Sandipani Muni, and told him, if you want to see the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, you come and you live in Braja. And she was the guru of all of the Brajbasis throughout the childhood pastimes of the Lord. She brought her grandson Marumangal, her granddaughter Nandimukhi, and they all got to see the pastimes of the Lord. But Sandipani Muni, he was born, that's the son of Purnamasi, he was born in Kashi. He was a Shiva Bhakta. Later he went to Prabhash Kshetra, where the great Shiva temple is Somnath. Then he came to Avantipur, Ujjain, which is about 500 miles away from Mathura. So Krishna and Balaram, now wanting to perform these austerities, particularly of brahmacharyam, they decided they would select Sandipani Muni as their guru. And because they were brahmacharyas, they weren't allowed to ride on vehicles. And not only that, if any outsiders came to know that Krishna Balaram had left Mathura, then certainly Jarasandha and all of the enemies of the Yadus would come and attack Mathura. So they made a secret plan. They told the Yadavas that you tell everyone after our sanskara, we've decided to take a vow and we're going to live secretly to do our studies here in Mathura. Particularly, do not let the Brijbasis know, Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, do not let them know that we have gone outside of Mathura, because it'll break their heart to know that we've gone far away. So a message was sent all around Krishna Balaram. They're observing a secret vow. Meanwhile, all alone, Krishna Balaram started walking to Ujjain. Nowadays, 20 minutes you can get to Ujjain. Overnight you can get to Ujjain. No, they walked the whole way there to the home of their guru. And on the way, whatever Brahmins, whatever pilgrims they saw, they would give alms. They were kshatriyas. They were beautiful young boys in the prime of youth. And no one could recognize them because they were dressed as brahmacharis. Simple cotton cloth. They had their belts, they had their deerskin, they had their kadira, danda. As they walked and walked, they would see the cow villages. You see, even on the trains when you go through UP, the beautiful countryside and the cows roaming, and everything is just proper. So when they reached Ujjain, Avantipur, the women, the residents, they saw these two beautiful boys. They couldn't understand who they were. They were so magnificent. They thought the sun and the moon had come. They were speculating who these boys were. They must be sons of kings. And when they entered into Sandipani Muni's ashram, there were hundreds of Brahmins there, all sitting around Sandipani Muni, who was teaching them. Sandipani Muni, the guru, he was just like Brihaspati, guru, and all of these thousands of Brahmins, they were like stars. And then enter the sun and the moon, Krishna and Balaram. And the Brahmins, who were all Shivites, they were Shiva Bhaktas, they saw the beauty of these two boys, but they couldn't understand who they were. They saw they must be Kshatriya boys because of their beauty and their strength. So they didn't even bow down. They thought, well, we're Brahmins, they're Kshatriyas. As opposed to Gargamuni, who melted in ecstasy and offered his respects, understanding Krishna and Balaram's real identities. This is the difference between the Vaishnavas and the Shiva Bhaktas. They can't recognize the Supreme Lord. But in their hearts, they understood that these are very special young boys. So the boys, they presented themselves. They didn't want Sandipani Muni to know who they were. So he asked, what is your jat? Where do you come from? Who is your father? Did we come from the Yadu dynasty? Our names are Sita and Asita, light and dark. And we wish to become your, they put the firewood at his feet, everything. They tried to do everything properly, as proper brahmacharis. And they served their guru. Now their guru could understand that these are very special boys. He wouldn't give them anything to do. He wouldn't give them any work like the other boys. But when he wasn't watching, they would do service for him. So it went on like this, and we will hear the stories of Krishna and Balaram in the Gurukula, how they went to get the firewood, how Sandipani Muni was furious that his mother sent them out with the other boys, how Sandipani Muni himself went and brought them back. But what's not mentioned in the pages of the Bhagavatam is the anguish of Krishna and Balaram during this time. They were little boys, 10, 11 years old. They missed their mother, they missed their father, they missed their friends, they missed their cows, they missed their girlfriends. And at night, even in the Gurukula, they would just hug each other and cry. And one night, Krishna had a dream. When Krishna was sleeping, Balaram would hear him talking to all of his cowherd boyfriends. Everything was going on in dream form. So one night he had a dream. He woke up. He said, Balaram, I was just in the Rasa Leela in my dream. I don't know what to do. We're brahmacharis. I've broken my brahmacharya. But he said, but actually, according to Durvasa Muni, I didn't break my brahmacharya. Now, what did Durvasa Muni say? This is from an Upanishad, from the Rig Veda. Now, this Upanishad is very important because most of the Upanishads, they point to the Brahman and Paramatma feature of the Supreme Lord. This is why we study the Ishopanishad, because that's when the devotee prays to remove your Brahmajyoti so I can see your real form. So in this Gopal Tapani Upanishad, the second part, the gopis, they go to Krishna, they say, how can we get your eternal association? He says, you go to the other side of the Jamuna, and you go to Durvasa Muni, and you feed him. So they went to the other side, they fed him beautiful sweet rice with ghee, and he ate every bit of it, left a little bit of remnants. And on the way there, they asked Krishna, well, how do we get across the Jamuna? It's so deep. He said, you just say to the Jamuna, Krishna is a brahmachari. So they say Krishna is a brahmachari, they walked across the Jamuna, and then on the way back, again, how were they going to get across? And Durvasa said, well, you just tell Jamuna, Durvasa only eats the juice of durva grass. So the gopis couldn't understand, how is this? Krishna's a brahmachari, and we just saw you eat all the sweet rice, and now you're telling us that you only drink the juice of durva grass? So then Durvasa Muni began to explain Sankhya philosophy, very deep philosophy, that although the elements and the senses, they interact, but the Atma has nothing to do with the elements or the senses. The Atma is transcendental. So in the same way, you may see me eating, but my soul has nothing to do with the eating, so I'm not actually eating. You may see Krishna enjoying, but actually, all of this enjoyment done by Krishna, these are just expansions of himself. It's just like Krishna looking into a mirror, enjoying his own reflection. So Krishna is not actually, he is a brahmachari. He's not actually enjoying anything separate from his own self. So this was the explanation. Now, the Brijbasis, in the meantime, when Krishna sent Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd man and boys back to Braja, Nanda Maharaj, this is before the Upanayana Sanskar. Nanda Maharaj, he said, well, if you're staying in Mathura, we can also stay with you. I will bring Mother Yashoda here. Krishna says, yes, you can have a nice private house here. The two of you can stay here. I'm here. You can also stay here. But then Krishna, he changed his mind. He said, if you two are here, then all of Braja will perish. Because not only will I be gone, but now you'll also be gone. He said, no, you have to go back. And not only that, Nanda Maharaj, he then thought, well, what we can do is we can bring all of the Brijbasis to live in Mathura. And Nanda Maharaj, he thought, if they can all, certainly Krishna can take care of everyone. And Krishna, he thought, well, that's not going to be possible, because we know, living here, that Mathura is the center of the spiritual world. That's where Krishna appeared. It's a city. And all around Mathura, there are 12 forests, very expansive forests. There's 7 on this side, the Krishnavans. There are 5 on the other side, that's the Bhadravans, Balaram's forests. And within those forests, there are unlimited cows and so many inhabitants of Braja. Krishna thought, there is no way that I will be able to accommodate all of the cows and all of the inhabitants in this small city of Mathura. It's impossible. And the cows are our worshipable deities. First and foremost, we must take care of the cows. And the cows, their numbers are expanding every day. Nanda Maharaj himself had 900,000 cows, and those cows are having more cows every day. So Krishna told Nanda Maharaj, and he wrote a letter. He said, you must go back. You must perform your duty to the cows. You must take care of the cows until I have finished pleasing your friends, the Yadus. They're not my relatives. You are my relatives. Just for some time, I have 4 things to do. First, now that Kamsa has been killed, I have to install Ugrasena. Now, Ugrasena, he was not really a Yadu. He was the king of the Sattvatas, the Vrishnis, the Bhojas, the Dasaras. They were all united with the Yadus, but they weren't actually coming from Yadu. So he was the proper person. In the 3rd canto, Vidura, he confirms that when Kamsa took over, Ugrasena had to flee Mathura. So now Ugrasena has come back, and Krishna has to install him. And he has to make sure that all of the Yadu clans will not try to override him. So that was Krishna's first reason why he had to stay in Mathura for some more time. Then he had to bring all of the Yadus back to Mathura because they had all fled in all directions. He had to bring them back, reinstate them in their kingdoms. And then he had to make sure that all of the enemies of Kamsa would not be able to overpower Mathura. So he had to stay there and protect the city of Mathura. And finally, when all of this was over, he would be able to come back to Braja and never leave again. So in the meantime, what he wanted the Brijbasis to do was, he wanted them to perform their daily activities just as they had always been doing. Take care of the cows, take care of their homes, take care of the land, and wait for him. And when he sent this letter, Nanda Maharaj, he was thinking, we can do that, but what am I going to tell Mother Yashoda when I come back without you? He was heartbroken, and he knew that she wouldn't be able to bear it. So he wrote a separate letter to Mother Yashoda, and he gave that to Sridham. And he explained to Mother Yashoda, and we also have confirmation of this in the Chaitanya Leela, that every day since I've been gone, you've been cooking for me. And every day I've been coming and eating whatever you cook. You see me, but you think it's a dream. Actually, I am coming. And I will continue to come every single day, and whatever foodstuffs you make for me, I will eat them. So I will be there with you every day. Then he sent a secret letter with Subal. This letter was to the gopis. And he assured each and every gopi, he reminded in a separate section in this letter, each and every gopi, that I had come to you at this time, I had come to you at this time. And he showed them, he reminded them that you think it's a dream, but actually I am coming to you every time to be with you. Now, Nanda Maharaj was very concerned about the cows, because he thought the cows would die without Krishna. So Krishna, he had a plan. He said, my friend Stoka Krishna, Stoka means little. Stoka Krishna, the cows, they understand a person by their fragrance, by their form, and by the sounds that they make. I'm going to give Stoka Krishna all of my clothes that have my fragrance. I'm going to have Stoka Krishna play a flute. And I'm going to have Stoka Krishna talk with all the cowherd boys just as I did. And Subal, he is going to dress up as Balaram. He's going to blow on his buffalo horn. He's going to carry the plow. These two boys, Stoka Krishna and Subal, will go out every day into the forest with the other cowherd boys. All the cows will understand that Krishna and Balaram are still here, and all the animals in the forest will also think that Krishna and Balaram are still with them. And that way, everyone will be satisfied. The letters went to the beloveds, to the family members, to the friends, and for the animals, Stoka Krishna and Subal would play their part. So Upananda, when he read these letters, he said, we have always listened to Krishna since his childhood. When he told us to stop the Indra Yagya, we didn't think twice. We stopped it. Anything Krishna tells us, we do because we love him. Now Krishna is telling us to stay here in Braj, to continue our Goseva, and to wait until his work is finished in Mathura. We must obey him, and we should write a letter back to him confirming that we are going to do as he says, but we're also going to ask him to come back as soon as he can. And certainly by our prayers, he will come back. So Upananda, he wrote a letter on behalf of all of the Brijbasis. He even said, Mother Yashoda, she agrees to what you have said. She will cook for you every day. She is just waiting for you to return. Now, for this particular Upanaya Sanskara, because Krishna and Balaram, they still could not accept Devaki as their mother, Vasudeva remembered that his wife Rohini was still there in Braja. So he sent a letter, not to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. He sent a letter to two other brothers of Nanda Maharaj, Sananda and Nandan. And he said, you please send back my wife Rohini. Now when Rohini was informed of this, she was shattered. Not for her own, of course she wanted to be with Krishna and Balaram, and she wanted to be with her husband. She couldn't disobey him. But she was thinking of Mother Yashoda. she was the only solace for Mother Yasoda because the two mothers were suffering together. Now Mother Yasoda was going to be all alone. So she was crying with Mother Yasoda, what should I do? How can I disobey my husband? I want to go be with the boys also. I can't leave you alone. Mother Yasoda, she was so, her heart was so big. She said, you and I are none different. I have always seen your son as my son, and you've always seen my son as your son. We've always raised the two boys together. We've been the mothers to both of the boys. And you are just like me, and I'm just like you. So when you go to be with Krishna and Balaram, you'll be able to send me letters all the time about what they're doing. And it'll be just like I'm there with you, because we'll then be able to have communication. So Yashoda encouraged her. No, you go. Don't worry about me. You go, you be with the boys. So Rohini, she very reluctantly, she went back to Mathura to be with her husband, to be with her co-wives. And when Krishna and Balaram saw her, they just started to weep and weep because they saw Mother Yasoda right there with her. And they missed Mother Yasoda so much. So this time of the Upanayan sanskara, Rohini could understand that, no, the Brijbasis should not come to see this, it'll break their heart. But sometimes, Rohini was there with her co-wives, Devaki, Vasudeva. She said to Vasudeva, sometimes you must allow Krishna Balaram go to visit Nanda and Yashoda. They're crying day and night. And Akrura's mother was there also. It was a family. Akrura's mother said, yes, of course. Just like all the Brijbasis, they come and go from Mathura. Why can't Krishna Balaram sometimes go to Braja to see his parents and his friends? And Vasudeva and Devaki, they were silent. They knew that if Krishna and Balaram were able to go to Braja, they would never come back because their hearts were there. They loved the Brijbasis much. They had no real affection for the Mathuravasis. So then Kamsa, his mother, was still part of the family. She didn't go anywhere. She was the wife of Ugrasena. She starts blasting Rohini. She said, oh, you little child, what do you know? They just want Krishna and Balaram to come back because they want to use him again as a slave to take care of their cows. Their whole childhood, they were used as their helpers. They sent them out into the forest without any shoes. They didn't feed them properly. They had to steal milk and butter just to stay alive. When they get caught, they would get tied up. You don't understand these scoundrels of the Brijbasis. Why do you want to send these two boys back into the hands of these cruel people? So Padmavati, that's her name, she couldn't understand the love of the Brijbasis, nor could she understand the separation the Brijbasis were feeling for Krishna Balaram. So Rohini, although she was junior to Padmavati, she very sarcastically called Padmavati, oh Sati. Sati means a pure one. Everyone knew that Padmavati had been, Kamsa had been from Durmila, so she certainly wasn't Sati. What do you know about the love of the Brijbasis? Certainly they should be allowed to visit sometimes, but Vasudeva and Devaki could not hear of it. And therefore they wanted to very quickly have this sanskara to confirm that now Krishna was no longer a part of the Vaishnav family. Now Krishna was becoming a kshatriya. He would have all of the duties of a kshatriya, brahmachari. Later he would be trained as a prince, because after the boys walked there all the way, 500 miles, but after they finished their studies and they completed there were so many different sanskars when you're in the Gurukula. There's the first day that you start your studies, and then when the boys, they get their hairs, there's another sanskara, and then when they finish their studies, there's another sanskara, and that's when the boys offer their guru dakṣiṇā. So when the guru dakṣiṇā was being offered, and by that time, Sanipani Muni could understand who these boys were, he consulted with his wife, what should we ask of them? They asked that their son be brought back from Yamaraja Bodh, who had been killed at the ocean. Krishna and Balaram didn't walk there. From the sky, a beautiful chariot came, everything they needed. They went to Prabhakshetra, they brought the son. According to Rupa Goswami, that son was Marumangal. There's no other mention of any other son. And in the Lalita Madhava, Rupa Goswami, he says that the son that was killed by Panchajana, he was actually Marumangal. Krishna came, he went, he brought Marumangal back to his father. So the pastimes, by that time, after their studies had finished, they were now Kshatriyas. They came back to Mathura in their chariot. They were welcomed by all their family members. And then Krishna, still within his heart, considering himself to be the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, understanding the grief of all the Brijbasis, next chapter is when Krishna then sends Uddhava so that he can understand the love of the Brijbasis. And Uddhava also didn't want to leave Braj after he understood and saw the exemplary love of those Brijbasis. So we have a few minutes if anyone has any questions.
So you see that every time there's a ceremony, the kings or emperors give away 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 cows, gold, jewelry. But how do you afford to do these kind of things?
How to understand it?
How to understand it. When he had a son, he gave away millions of cows.
Yes.
Where do they get all that? With mystic powers? Or?
No. Previously, of course, this is Kali Yuga now, and the whole plan of the conquerors of Braja, of Bharat, was to kill the cows, because the whole economy was based on cows. Wealth was according to how many cows you have. So previously, Bharatvarsha was completely inundated with cows. Everywhere there were cows. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Gopakumar came, all he could see was cows everywhere. He didn't see any people. He just saw cows here. So Bharatvarsha previously had unlimited number of cows, and that was the wealth of Bharatvarsha, the cows. And that was how all of the yagyas were able to be performed, because they had so much ghee. All their wealth, their whole economy, their agriculture, everything was based on the cows. And therefore, although we can't understand how 10,000 cows, 1 million cows, there were actually that many cows. Just as we have here 1.4 billion people in this one little country. But the rest of the world can't understand how so many, more than 1/4 of the entire Earth population can be in one little country. They can't understand because they don't understand the beauty of India, right? People get to take birth in India and Bharatvarsha because of their pious activities. So in those days, and of course Bharatvarsha was much bigger in those days, the cows were unlimited. And the people worshipped the cows. They took care of the cows. That was their wealth. They had complete dependency on the cows. So it's not imagination. It's just our frog-like imagination cannot understand how there can be thousands of cows anywhere. We just can't, because for us to take care of 400 cows we have to collect donations all day and night.
When they said Chitraketu had millions of wives, and they were all barren, how are we supposed to say it? Literally, or is that just figuratively? Like sometimes, and also, yeah, he had like trillion servants. How do we take these things literally or just figuratively? Like, how can somebody have trillions of servants? Or how can his Chitraketu have millions and millions of wives and all barren? Not that you're trying to figure all these technical things out, but sometimes that an overemphasis that no matter how much you have, it doesn't work.
Well, one time a new devotee, asked Prabhupada that how is it that the moon, the churning of the ocean, when all the things came out of the ocean, how is it the moon was able to be born from the ocean? And Prabhupada simply exactly repeated, the moon was born from the ocean. We can't understand those things because we have very small brain power. And also, sanshaya, we doubt. We doubt that these things are true because it doesn't fit in with our logical understanding according to our sense perception. But if we simply read and accept what's being spoken in the Shastras, at one point, there are descriptions of birds that fly and the elephants are born and they cut, and they're pigeons that go in. We can't understand these things because who are we to understand them? Indradumna Maharaj, he once gave an example. He was sitting with his harmonium and there was a little ant on the harmonium. And he said, how can the ant understand the creation of the universe? How much can an ant standing on a... So that's what we're just like a little ant. How much can we understand with our brain power? But if we simply read and accept, when we were living outside of Vrindavan, and we read about Vrindavan and all of the beauty of Vrindavan and the peacocks, we read about it, but we didn't believe it. When we came here, yes, they're lotus flowers, they're peacocks, they're beautiful, there are millions of pilgrims. The president of Tirupati, he was sitting here. He was, of course, in Tirupati, there's so many crowds, right? Tirupati is famous for its crowds. He said that when he came to Vrindavan, he got terrified by the crowds. He had never seen such crowds in his whole life. So we can't understand things at this point with our small brain power. But if we simply read and not doubt it, then at one point Krishna will reveal all of this to us.
Just to clear my understanding, so you mentioned that Krishna Balaram, the Upanaya ceremony, the thread ceremony, it was happening simultaneously both in Mathura and Vrindavan.
Yes.
So just to clear my understanding, it's like Krishna Balaram were personally present in Vrindavan as well as they were personally present in Mathura when the ceremony happened?
Yes.
How do you understand that?
Krishna and Balaram, they never leave Vrindavan. And the devotees, they see them. They see them right there because of their love. So when Krishna sent this message to Nanda Maharaj, when all the boys were given their Upanayana at the same time in the Vaishya ceremony, Krishna and Balaram were there with them because they're always with the boys. The boys, they understood that Krishna and Balaram were with them every day. The Mother Yasoda, she couldn't understand because of her feelings of separation, but the boys understood that. So again, we can't understand how Krishna and Balaram can be in both places at the same time. But Krishna and Balaram Krishna is in every single atom. Can we see him? No. Krishna is everywhere. Can we see him? No. We can't even understand that Krishna and Balaram are right in front of us because we have cataracts. We don't understand. We can't see Krishna because we don't have that love to see Krishna. But when our eyes are anointed with the love, we can understand that Krishna and Balaram are wherever his devotees are. And they can expand unlimitedly. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you for the nice class. I wanted to know if, like, in their physical forms, Krishna and Balaram ever went back to Vrindavan? Like, we hear this yathā-vat story of the gopis pulling them back to Vrindavan.
Oh yes. After Dantavakra, they returned.
They returned.
Definitely. And then they went back to Goloka Vrindavan with all the Brijbasis. Yes.
If you don't mind, if you have some time, will you tell those stories, like expand on them? Because
Yeah.
this is something
Next class. It's after 9 o'clock now, so.
Hare. Mataji, the samskara you were speaking, do this samskara still are continuing, the devotees they perform this samskara or they stop this?
No, we still perform the sanskaras. There are 10 major sanskaras that the Vaishnavas perform, just like we perform the antim sanskara at the time of death. We perform the vivaha sanskara, we perform the jatakarma, we perform the upanayana, that's how we get our sacred threads. All of these sanskaras, the 10 major ones are performed by the Vaishnavas. And then there's 16 general ones, there's 64 total, karma kandya. But for the Vaishnavas, there are 10 major ones that we're still performing. Okay. All glories to